The great thing about it is you're up to a point your own boss, but the downside is the minute you're working for nothing, and that takes the shine off it. We're getting nothing for what we're doing, no money in it. It's costing money to do what we're doing. And try and do other bits and pieces to supplement farm income. It's not good now. You can't do it forever. Like. You have to start getting paid for what you're doing, or you can't do it.
Throughout 2015, the price of farm products, such as dairy and pigs, have declined. The gross output for agriculture fell by 9% from the previous year, and the total income from farming went from £312 million to £183 million, falling by 41%. This has had a drastic effect on farmers that they're still trying to recover from several months on.
Traditionally, milk would always have been reasonably secure, but this last 12 months, it's on a downturn, and a major downturn compared to where it used to be. The general public, especially the non-farming part of the general public, if they can buy groceries and milk cheap in some supermarket or anywhere, they'll go and buy it. They're not worried about whether the man that put it there made a living or not. It's everybody looks after themselves, and the housewife, with the exception of farmers' wives that are sort of struggling, don't give two damns, basically, where they buy their groceries or where they get their milk or who produced it. As long as it's in the supermarket at the lowest possible price, that's all they're worried about. Nobody cares whether you're going bankrupt or not producing it at the end of the day. That's just the way the thing is, and there's no difference. There'll never be any different.
The price of milk during the lowest parts of 2015 reached an average of under 19 pence per litre, even though it takes an average of 27 pence per litre to make, and the price paid hasn't risen above 27 pence since 2014.
You only have to look around you. It's all farming. Like everywhere you look, every field you go down past, there's cows in, or cattle or sheep or something. It's all agriculture here. It's an agriculturally orientated place. There's people that are forced to pack it in, and you wouldn't blame anybody at the minute if they had if they have a choice at all. They want to stay at it, but at the same time, you can only go so long without getting paid for it.
Dairy farms are not the only farms to be hit by the plummet of profits. The average farm income across all types of farms is expected to decrease from £24,942 to £13,451 in between 2015 to 2016.
I've been a farmer most of my life. I'm probably 38 years at home here now, farming. I came home, I left school and went to Greenmount and had to leave Greenmount. Not for anything I did, but my father would have been, he had a challenging time. He had a bad back, he had a major operation in his back, so he needed help, and the fellow that was helping us actually rode off a tractor and put himself in the hospital for a while, so I had to come home halfway through the first year at Greenmount, so I never got finishing my degree at that time. So I decided it was Easter time, and I missed the Easter exams at Greenmount, so I stayed at home and never went back, which was one of my regrets. I'd loved to have finished it. This is a mixed farm. We have probably milking in around between 80 and 100 Holstein pedigree cows, and another 100 replacements. And then we have, as I say, a mixed farm. We have 7,500 chickens producing eggs for skay eggs for supermarkets. And then we breed between 10 and 15 pedigree bulls for breeding purposes to sell on as well. We've had sustained bad milk price for the last 15 to 18 months. And the short-term outlook for the next 4 to 6 months is probably maybe even slightly worse. There will be downward pressure on milk price for the next 3 months till we get over the peak production of the springtime, if and when the springtime arrives. We're now mid-April and still not much sign of it. So we could safely say it's going to be late spring, which in a way might help keep production down a wee bit, which could help, but the problem is there's too much production worldwide, too much product on the market, and the people that want to buy it are sitting on their hands and buying short. The squad's, well, she's past her sell-by date. It's another symptom of the farming crisis, but she should have been changed last year. We're making do. We have to change her. Well, she's definitely done. We've got an extra year out of her, and we have to bite the bullet now because we're having to jump leader every day to get her to go. So I'm afraid we're going to have to invest in that. But it's a case, you think twice about spending money, and you only spend what you can afford to spend, what you really need to spend.
This drop in farmers' income even got the attention of the European Union. They set aside a £29 million aid package for the United Kingdom to help deal with the crisis. Certain dairy farms in Northern Ireland received almost 2 pence extra to their milk price per litre, adding up to around £2,000 per farm. However, these changes haven't been enough for some farmers. Protests out big chain supermarkets such as Asda and Morrison's showed farmers' frustration with the issue.
Well, I thought that the protests was a response to the dairy crisis that we were in at that particular time, and I do believe it did have a big effect because, you know, the reality is if he or she who shouts the loudest is likely to be heard, and had the farmers not made their voices heard last year, the legislators, people of power might not appreciate the strength and the depth of the crisis.
Yeah, well, I was there at them because I think if there's a protest called and nobody turns up, the supermarkets and all, they go, these people are happy enough, or else we can do what we like with them.
To be totally honest, I think it was a waste of time. You portrayed the completely wrong image of farming. The same way doing the protest of Stormont. To have 12 tractors at £80,000 each driving up the Stormont drive and then look for sympathy doesn't work. Every tractor like that there should have been up, because that's the ones that do all the work every day. 35 with a scraper and the rust hanging off it. Because that's what real farming's about. The other glossy side of it is lovely, and it's great fun having that new tractor and enjoying it and having the comfort of it. But she doesn't pay her way. That tractor pays her way every day. She owes me nothing. And that's the bottom line. And if you want to go out with sympathy, you've got to tell the whole story, and they've got to tell it truthfully. And that was my opinion of it. You know, when to go out looking sympathy, and people come in there and says, well, what the heck does he need sympathy for with a tractor that might have been spent $100,000 on? You know, you've got to think your thing through and then portray the right image.
The farming community has been struggling, but has it been so bad for everyone?
I'll show you the fruit. Yeah, this is the fruit, and then we have our own beef too. We sell a bit of our own beef as well. Plus we also sell the rest of the beef goes to APB in Newry. And we grow potatoes, and we had our own carrots here, and parsnips and turnips and beetroot, but they're all finished there, so we're just buying them at the minute. And then we grow a bit of, let's say, salad and stuff like that, you know, in season stuff, you know. And then we import the stuff here from England. A pallet comes in every week for a couple of pallets a week for all the different farm shops, and we're bringing bananas and anything we need, you know. People are either into organic stuff or they're not, you know, and if they come, they buy quite a bit of stuff. You know, most customers, there's few customers, but they buy quite a bit, you know.
I was born in England. My father was originally from Strabane, went to England in the 30s. And my mother was born in England, but my grandfather, her father, was from Strabane also, but went when he was young to England. So my father decided to come back and bought this place. Well, this field here was the first one put into organic. We took 1992 or 3, I started to reseed fields, putting them into grass clover and no fertiliser, and we had no stock at the time, so I let them. So this was the first. Then after potatoes each year, we reseeded, maybe anything from 10 to 20 acres, till we got round the farm, and then we applied for the organic conversion, but they were sort of converted anyway. But after being monocrop for 20, 30 years, you know, it took a good while for them to come round again, you know. Because ordinary land like that would grow nothing. If you put it into grass and didn't put fertiliser on it, it would grow nothing. But I think people go into organic farming and they're not philosophically minded towards it. or not ethically believing in it, and they shouldn't really go into it unless you really believe in it. You know, there's an awful lot of pollution. They probably don't realise they're polluting, but they do. You know, I mean, it's spreading slurry at wet times and near water courses. It runs off into rivers, and fertiliser also gets washed into rivers, and chemicals from spraying eventually ends up in the waterways too, and into groundwater. It's only a niche market at the minute. And if many more people went into it, just the same as conventional farming, it would, be oversupplied.
Well, my advice to farmers that are struggling is to, look at the potential that's upcoming. Take a look, for example, the Farm Business Improvement Scheme, which has been launched this year. In fact, it has been launched already, and there's I think there's 4,000 or 5,000 farmers that are currently part of the business development groups, which are part of the Farm Business Improvement Scheme. So my advice would be to look at your farms, look at the efficiencies of it, look at the opportunities that will be upcoming in the near future, and stick with it effectively.
We do all these things, we spend all this money adhering to red tape and regulations and health and welfare and codes of practice to produce the product that's the best in the world, and then a supermarket can go out, can source that somewhere in the third world at cheap rates and can sell it on the back of our good name, and nobody cares. The consumer doesn't care because as long as it's cheap, they're happy. The government doesn't care because as long as the balance of payments and the people are voting for them, they don't care. They didn't care about the coal miners, don't really care about the steel workers, they don't care about the manufacturing industry. If they can buy it cheaper somewhere else, they've got to rediscover their national identity and their national pride. Look after their own. But we've got to get that pride that they want to be proud of us and want to buy off us. Not that we're arrogant and that we're demanding them to buy off us. I think that's the biggest point that has to be got over, the selling point.
The only thing I'll tighten it up is whenever there's a bit of a famine sometime. And then they'll all be coming crying, we need food, same as they were after the Second World War. They needed food, and there was a big effort to get self-sufficient. And it'll need to go back to some kind of a milieu like that, otherwise nobody will give a hoot. That's basically it.
The future of farming is uncertain and unpredictable, but one thing is certain. In the morning, these farmers will get up and work hard on their livelihood so that we can get food in supermarkets and shops. The question is, how much are we willing to pay for it?